Hi, everyone. I'm Amy Peterson. Welcome to the Ministry Wives Podcast, a production of the North American Mission Board. Here, we have honest conversations about the realities of the ministry wife life and how to keep our hearts tethered to Jesus as we serve Him. This season, we are talking about all things family life for ministry wives. May we be encouraged and equipped together. Well, today I am so excited about my conversation with Missie Branch. She is a ministry wife, a mom, podcaster, teacher, and author, and so many of the things that we get in ministry. And on this episode, we talk about special needs families in the church. Missy shares her firsthand experience and their story that is so impactful for families like theirs and for all ministry wives who serve those families in the church. So if you're looking to support families with special needs, or if you are a ministry wife who feels left out, join me in this conversation with Missy. Well, Missy, welcome to the Ministry Wives Podcast. I'm so glad you're here.
I am so excited to be here with you. These are some of my favorite ladies in the world to minister with.
Isn't it the truth? I just think they're the best and the strongest women who serve Jesus on the daily with their families. But you have been in ministry as a ministry wife, and God has continued to develop and grow your role and your way of service. So, to set the framework, tell us about who you are. A lot of our audience already knows you, but who you are and your family dynamic in ministry.
I love this podcast, so I feel like almost like a fangirl. So excited to be here. My name is Missie Branch. I work in the nonprofit world in the holistic pro-life space, but I previously worked in academics, higher education, in student life. So I spent a lot of time with a lot of students. And so making that transition, we still live on campus. So I
Mm,
still spend a lot of time with a lot of students and a lot of ministry wives, seminary wives whose
mm.
husbands are about to go off and be launched into these things. And they're like, oh no, what does that mean for me? And then I've also been a pastor's wife, and my husband has only done full time ministry for the entire time we've been together. So
Mm.
it's been a fun ride.
A
Yeah, we
ride
have
is a good way to say it. And what is he
yes.
and what is he doing now?
Right now, he is a professor at the seminary, a professor at a college program at the seminary, a college prison program, which he loves at the seminary. He also has some private. He's an itinerant preacher, and he also is working on urban manhood things with a group of gentlemen that he ministers with, and so I love that. It's a lot of fun,
That is so
and he's
cool.
yeah, he's got a lot on his plate. He's done a lot.
Yes, it's true, and it's so interesting how different ministry couples, uh, there's just such a diversity of that. There's many
Yes.
who the Lord has brought doing their own things and opened up doors for them in different avenues, and then others, and there it goes through seasons too, but others who are serving side by side in the same ministry, and it's just an interesting flex that happens across the
Mm-hmm.
breadth of our ministry wives in our great nation.
Mm-hmm.
So you said, and I want to go back to this because I was stuck on a word, holistic pro life. Is that what you said?
Yes.
And so, what is the organization that you work for?
It's called Stand for Life.
Mhm.
And our the idea is that in most communities, a lot of communities, women are not just saying, "Hey, I don't want to be a mom," or "Hey, I'm making these choices because I'm frustrated with life." That there are a lot of drivers to why people make all kinds of decisions, including abortion. And so, if we began to look at the drivers to those decisions, food insecurity, lack of education, housing, I mean, it's just so many things. If we began to recognize that maybe if a woman wasn't being trafficked, she might see things different. You know
Mm,
what I mean? And
wow.
maybe, all of those things. And so when you begin to address all of those things, you realize that people don't make decisions in a vacuum. So how do we reach people way upstream, and how do we help meet needs and create community around these other issues so that we can prevent people from making other decisions?
Ooh, that's beautiful.
I love it.
I mean, that is amazing. That's for all of us. And
Hmm.
I think my heart for these conversations that we have here is to diversify the topic and the conversation to hopefully land in places upstream before we get to the place of burnout or just disengagement completely or leaving or all those things. I like how you
Yes.
said, let's catch it upstream.
Hmm.
That's beautiful. And I
Hmm.
also noticed that you have a new book out. It was released in May. Tell us about that.
I am I'm proud of it. I think those words are hard to say, but when I mean I'm proud of it, I'm just blown away by what God has done. It's a guided prayer journal, and I've written it really with women like my three daughters and the ladies that I minister to on the campus in mind. And really, it's just the idea of how do we give the gift of prayer to people? I feel like Jesus was hearing me since I was 7 years old. And I'm like, I don't even know why you would listen to me, Lord, but that has carried me. And so I've really wanted to be able to impart that gift to other people. So,
Oh, I loved it. I was looking through it just a little bit and just loved the colorful cover, just so
yes.
engaging. And I think sometimes in this, and oftentimes for those of us who have been in ministry or in church for a while, there kind of becomes the lundrum of prayer that gets a little
Hmm.
crusty for us. And
Hmm.
there's been seasons throughout my Christian life in which I've needed to come back and be reminded of prayer and almost have a fresh start. And so I think that's what your book can help other women to do in their prayer journey with the Lord.
I'm so grateful. Thank you. That's what I'm hoping.
Yeah, I do too, because I mean, that's the key.
Yes.
Communication with Jesus is the key.
It
And
is the key. Yes.
we need him desperately every day when we're in our ministry settings and our marriages and our parenting. I mean, nothing has brought
Hmm.
me to my knees more than parenting has of the extent of actually what I can control.
Girl, I told somebody I love my children too. I mean, I love them,
Right.
but there is nobody that can hurt you like your own children.
Oh my God. Absolutely. Nobody can hurt you like your own children.
Yes. And so I'm like, Lord, you are the faithful person. You are faithful. Let
Yeah.
me turn to you.
Mhm. It's so true. And
Yes.
for some reason, we get it a little, we can get it very stilted until we're slapped back into reality that they will hurt you. They do have their
Yes.
mind to do things, and they're just
Yes.
broken, messy people like we all are.
Like we all are.
Yes.
Right.
So we need
Absolutely.
Jesus. So we need to be talking to him all the time.
Yes.
And I love that your prayer guide will help us do that.
Thank you.
So, okay, so tell us about your family. You said you had 4 kids, and
Mhm.
share it with us who they all are.
Yes, well, my kids are grown, so it's so funny to say that. But I have one son, he's the oldest, and three daughters. And my youngest two are still here. My third daughter is 19, and she's taking a gap year before she leaves for college in Korea.
Oh,
All of you who pray, please pray for my
talk
soul.
about breaking your heart. Oh my goodness.
I mean, I'm so proud of her. Her dream is huge and big, and I'm grateful that the Lord has given it to her. So I don't want to hold her back, but that is huge.
Isn't
And
that
she's
the
a believer.
tension that happens when we say yes to God, whether it be our own life, whether we say yes to the Lord,
Yes.
but yet there's a leaving, but for our kids to release them to what we've prayed for him to do, I will be praying for you. Yes.
Please, because she's going to be on the other side of the world. So we're going to, but I'm
Absolutely.
proud of her.
Yes,
And then
absolutely.
at home, so that's Sanai, and at home we still have our 22-year-old is Eden. That's our daughter with intellectual disabilities, and she's a joy. She's here. And then our oldest two, when they graduated from college, they're only 13 months apart. When they graduated from college, we sent them to Atlanta to be a part of an internship with NAMB actually,
Oh,
and a partner church there. And they have stayed there. They're just still doing ministry there. They love it, and it's really sweet to watch them blossom in their own faith. It just is so sweet. And so,
yeah. I think it's so helpful to have conversations with moms, ministry moms who have been through it and can look back
yes,
with wisdom. I'm almost there. I have a 22-year-old, a 19-year-old, and a 13-year-old. But
yes.
I know so many of the conversations that are real in the grind of it
Hmm.
sometimes lack the wisdom of having already gone through it. So I'm so grateful that we can talk today and hopefully encourage other ministry wives who are deep in it and
Yes.
need to know that you will make it through.
You will make it. Yes. And you can do it with joy. That's the crazy part.
Oh, man, that's so
Yes.
good. I think that is such a good reminder because sometimes we
Yes.
just get in the slugs.
Yes.
So the joy of it. Well, okay, so those are your 4 kids. You've got one getting ready to go to Korea next year, and then you have Eden, who is 22 and
Yes.
has intellectual disabilities. Our
Yes.
topic today is special needs families in the church. And this hits really close to home to me because my sister, my niece, my precious niece Audrey, has a lot of physical and intellectual needs. And I have
Hmm.
watched her navigate, and her husband's not in ministry, but navigate church um,
Yes.
with that in mind. And then I also have another dear friend who was served in ministry with us, who has a special needs daughter. And I, again, watched things that I had never even thought of before
Hmm.
as challenges for some people. And so I know that there are a number of women listening who have that same family dynamic. And oftentimes they are overlooked because we don't really know how to approach it or talk about it. And so
Hmm.
that's why I think and so grateful for you to share your story and kind of where you've come from in that whole journey with Eden
Hmm.
ministry. So what does everyday life look like for you as a mom with Eden? I mean, she's 22 and she's at home.
Yes. Eden is, first of all, she is the most joy. She brings us so much joy. Her particular disability, because it's intellectual, what's true about people with intellectual disabilities is that they almost can't fully grasp the level of their disability, which is almost so sweet, I think, because she's not seeing a bunch of barriers in her life. She almost doesn't understand when things are not working or she can't get it, or she's like, "What is wrong with me?" And I'm like, "Or what happened?" 'Cause I'm like, "Baby, it's you know."
Yeah.
Yeah. Or if she sees someone who has an obvious disability, and I say, "Oh, look, she has a disability too." She's like who? Um, okay. Okay, yes. You know, let
Well,
me rephrase this, baby girl. But life with Eden every day is an adventure. She is high functioning for her disability,
mhm,
but not high functioning as an adult in the world. Like I don't see Eden necessarily going out and getting an apartment and living on her own
mhm,
because of where her abilities have gaps.
mhm,
But the areas that she shines in are so beautiful that I
mhm,
honestly can say that I don't think that there was a time that I have said, Lord, why did you make her like this?
mhm,
I have wished that she could have more in
mhm,
areas, and I
mhm,
have wished that I could do more in
mhm,
ways, but I have not wished that God made her different because I just see how beautiful her
mhm,
life and her narrative is,
mhm.
even for us, how
That's
she has
right.
pointed us to Jesus, and so it's been beautiful.
Oh, that's so beautiful. Let's kind of rewind the track back to when she was born, because I
Hmm.
think that adjustment
Yes.
is devastating to many families, and then just having to ratchet in what life will now look like and all the things that that involves. She is 22, so she the second in the four. What number?
She's the third of the fourth.
She's a third of the four.
Third of the four, yes.
So when she was born and you began to grapple with the reality of who she was and who God created her to be, take me to those moments of
Yeah.
your dialogue with the Lord and
So Eden didn't have something, quote, wrong with her in the womb. Something happened to her. And so a lack of oxygen caused a cascade of things at birth.
Mhm,
And I remember not being able to, like, it was always something else. Like, why can't she latch on when it's time to nurse her in the beginning? And why is she having trouble breathing? And why is she not doing this? And why is she drooling excessively and she's so old? And why won't she talk? And just this endless, and people kept telling me, Missy, you're comparing her to the other two. Stop comparing her. There's nothing wrong. And as a mom, you're like, I feel like I'm not crazy. And the
yeah.
Lord, in His kindness, sent us a friend who told us. She sat me and another friend down, and both of us had babies born around the same time with issues that were different. And she said, I think your daughter has this, and your daughter has this. And my friend didn't necessarily feel blessed by that in the moment, but
Mm.
I remember feeling so relieved that I
Oh,
wasn't crazy. But then it flipped to, so now what does this mean?
Mm-hmm.
What does this mean for the rest of our lives if her disability is in her brain? It's not just she may like need a wheelchair, because we can all, not that I'm not diminishing that. Please don't hear me diminish needing a wheelchair. But I think when you think of what it means to be in a wheelchair, there's so many accommodations that people in wheelchairs are doing incredible things and living normal, active, happy lives.
Mm-hmm.
But an intellectual disability means I am never quite sure when we've reached the end, the limit to what you can do or what you know or where you can, and so
Yeah.
that's what was really scary for me in the beginning.
Yeah. Yeah. I think that that meets a lot of people where they are. What will this look like? And so, from that point of looking, wondering to what you actually lived, um, what was that? What was that difference? Or you said that she gives you so much joy, but how has she enriched your family life?
Eden, it's like she doesn't have a, so we used to say this, it's like Eden got a glimpse of heaven and just brings that joy from glory down, right? Because she's happy in moments when you're like, why, I'm frustrated. Why are you
Yeah.
why are things great for you right now? Or she would take things lightly that should be taken lightly, but we put so much weight on it. If this thing breaks, she's like, oh, wow, the Lord will make sure we get another one. And I'm like, this wasn't from Target. I can't just get another one. And then, but she's right. If the Lord wants me to have another one, I'll get another one. And if not, it's okay. It's a thing. It broke. It will be okay. And so she has pointed us in so many ways to Jesus with that joy and with that ability to let things roll off her shoulders. But then the areas where she has not been able to grasp, she has not been able to understand. I remember when I got her diagnosis, this makes me want to cry, but I remember saying, Lord, I just want two things for this baby girl. I just want her to know who I am, and I really just want her to know who you are.
Oh,
And if
wow.
she can live a life where she knows she's safe with me and she knows she's safe forever with you, then I think we can battle anything. And to watch her go through life through so many things, her forgetfulness and her high tone and low tone, and so everything breaks and she cuts herself and she's always burnt. She doesn't remember because of short-term memory loss. And then the things she does remember, I'm like, I wish you would forget that one thing. Can you?
Yes, I get a picture.
Yes.
Yeah. And so
Yeah.
as far as her, so those two prayers I think are just precious. And as you have grown her within your household, how have you seen the Lord meet her? Has she been able to come to a place of grasping Him, and kind of what was your thought processing or prayer through that?
I remember, so for Eden, she believes we have a branch way. The branches do this. And so in her mind, if the branches do this, I do this. So I remember trying to help her understand what it meant to be a Christian in a way that her mind could understand, could grasp. And she was about 9 or 10, I think. And I remember saying to her over and over again, well, mommy, daddy, and your older brother and sister are on a team, like a baseball team. And it's a team we chose to be on. We made a decision, like we were recruited, kind of thing, just trying to give her this idea. And that we're all on this team, but you have to make a decision to be on this team. And you're not on it just because I'm on it. And the team belongs to the Lord. And we would always talk about the Lord. Her dad is a preacher. She's heard
Yeah.
about the Lord all her life. um, but I remember one day really wrestling with the Lord. Is she going to be able to understand who you are? And one day she asked me if God was mad at her. And my instinct was at first to tell her no, but I remember saying yes. And the reason why he's mad at you is because you haven't joined his team. And I remember her little self looking at me and saying, Mommy, I want God to not be mad at me. I want to be on his team. And so, okay, you fast forward, she was 9, but now we go to this church, and the church is awesome, but our pastor preaches on like a seminary level. And I remember saying to her, do you even understand what's going on in the sermons? Like, are you grasping it? I'll never forget her response to me was, Mom, what are you talking about? God speaks Eden. He gets me.
That is so profound. What are you talking about,
And
Mom?
right, like, why? What do you mean? Am I getting it? Of course, I'm getting it. It's the Bible. You know what? Let me calm myself down and remember who you serve. You said yes to be on his team, and he is watching after you.
That is so good for all of us to
Yes.
just back off. But yet step into those places in which he gives you the opportunity to step in. And sometimes I
Yes.
think we want a formula of how to do it, but we would be cheated if he gave us a formula because he wants
Yes.
us to walk right with him and customize each situation to how he wants
Yes.
it to be. And I
Yes.
think specifically when you have a special needs child, there's the awareness that that is necessary,
Hmm.
but be able to release them to the Lord in similar ways is also so important to do.
I took a class, and one of the things that we learned, a missions class, that they said that in the United States, the largest unreached people group is actually adult with disabilities. Hmm.
Really?
And when you think of that, you think because most people think they won't get it.
Yeah.
I don't know how to communicate with them. Is
Yeah.
this really making any sense to them?
Hmm,
And I have such a heart for particularly adults. You think we have all these programs for kids, but then they reach a certain age and there's not much.
that's
And
right.
so I do think it's necessary to step in and to challenge and to inquire and to beg the Lord when it comes to our adults with disabilities in our spaces as well.
That's an interesting layer. I had not thought about that, but I appreciate you saying that. So, within the church setting, how has the church supported y'all as you've raised Eden and then continue to come alongside you in the church setting?
I think it takes work on both sides. One, I have to remember that it's hard for people to grasp the day-to-day life of a mom or a family with someone with intellect or with disabilities, period.
Mhm.
So for me to assume you can understand is just ridiculous.
That's
I
good.
also have had to help people to understand what it means to have an invisible disability, meaning she's not just pretending to not know, she doesn't know, you know what I mean, and she's not pretending to and like really discipling other people in that in a kind way, in a matter of fact type of way.
And you meant by invisible disability that you can't necessarily see
Yes.
it, but
Intellectual disability.
yes,
She
that's
walks in the room, she looks completely normal.
mm,
It's not until you see certain movements or you get into the conversation that you're like, something's not always there, or something's not, you know. And so,
that's good.
really, and I have to remember people have to jump through hurdles to even get to the space where they understand.
Exactly.
And but I will say, the churches that she's been at, it's been so sweet that once they get it, they have surrounded her in the best ways that they can. And I've tried to be as grateful for every little step towards help because I understand that people can only get what they can get, and people have capacities that are less than mine. This is my
Right.
not burden, but this is the path that God has put me on, and I have to have a capacity that I can't expect everyone to have. But I can expect my church to surround me and be a village because I want to jump in and surround them and be a village as they need. And so it's been beautiful to be a part of churches that have seen Eden as a person and wanted to pour in and step in and help her.
I love that. Churches that have seen her as a person and wanted to come
Hmm.
alongside her. And that grace that you exude when you're talking with other people and the patience and the education and the discipleship of even who Eden is so
Hmm.
important and not having the expectation that they'll get it. Um,
Right.
and I think that that is so healthy and so helpful. For those ministry wives listening who may not have a special needs child at home or adult at
Hmm.
home, but they have in their church someone with disability, whether it be invisible or visible, how would you encourage them to, what would be something that they can do or
Yes.
something that they could say to come alongside this family in their church?
One of the sweetest things is to address the person with disabilities, to not just say,
Hmm.
tell me about John, but to really have a conversation with John, even if John is not verbal, even if John can't make eye contact, to
Hmm.
really humanize this person and to say I see you is so beautiful and so life-giving both to John and to John's family.
Mhm.
Also, I think not recognizing that helping is not always just this one thing. Like a wheelchair ramp is so beautiful. It's such a sweet thing, but it's a first step
Mhm.
because John may need a wheelchair ramp and an interpreter, and Lisa may need a wheelchair ramp and someone to hold her hand. And so, really learning each person and saying, these are the needs this person has. Who can I maybe pair them up with? Or who can I pray that God will send their way to help meet individualized needs? Because I think sometimes we think the special needs group is over there.
Yes.
And we don't know they're all humans. They're all people and diverse as we are, and so there is no single formula for a family with special needs.
I think I loved what you said about humanizing the one with disability and speak directly to them. I
Mhm.
think that that is a wonderful, beautiful challenge for
Mhm.
all of us because it's easy just not to know what you're going to get in response or
Mhm.
embarrass them or embarrass you, but to be able to address them, I think is such a great how to love them from the
Mhm.
onslaught. And so I appreciate you saying that. That's so good. All right, so let's think about the ministry wife or the woman listening who has a special needs child, a child with disabilities, and they're in the elementary school age. What would
Mhm.
you say to encourage her?
I just really it's like I can feel it. Like you asked the question and I just got transported back.
Oh,
One, you are not forgotten.
mm,
You are not forgotten. In the highest of highs, when things are wonderful and this IEP came through, when you're getting that service and it feels so good that we're finally made progress, you're not forgotten. And you're also not forgotten when you can't get one person to advocate, to hear you, to understand, and to just please, I just need. You're not forgotten. And I think really have creating a community that one supports you, but just having a really powerful and present prayer life is
mm,
so necessary.
mm,
I would pour all of it out on Jesus. Like
mm.
if you're not with me, I don't know how I'm going to make it. I don't know how I'm going to do it. And I would say that to all parents. I would say that to all women. I would just say
Yeah,
that to people.
a blanket statement for everyone.
Right. If you're not with me, I'm not going to make it. But I would certainly say to moms, particularly when they're little and you're trying to find your way and understand what it means to parent this person, you
Mhm,
are not forgotten, and that the
mm,
Lord is preparing you and giving you the strength. And my husband has said this is a quote from somebody else, but I've heard him say it enough times that it feels like him, but I know it wasn't. But God doesn't necessarily call those who are equipped, but he certainly equips those he calls.
mm,
And so the work that he has called you to as a mom to this baby in this season, he will equip you as you go along. And you look back over years and go, my God, I can't believe
mm.
that I could do that. I didn't know I had that strength or that wisdom or that resilience or that energy. And you were look back and like, okay, Lord, that was you pulling me all the way through.
That's so good. Is there a verse, like a hook on verse that has really been your anchor or one of the anchors throughout parenting Eden?
Psalm 91 is my favorite for everything in life. Psalm 91, and it's for everything. And it starts off with everything is going to be fine with you, for
Mm,
you, if you are abiding under the shadow of the Almighty.
mm,
And I think, like, the number of times that I have just repeated all of Psalm 91 to myself over, He's got me in this, He's got me in this, He's got me in that, He's got me in that, He's got, okay, then we can handle this. We can handle this. We can handle this.
mm,
And I just am like, I have to abide, Lord. I have to abide. I have to trust you. I have to believe that this is not a waste of time. And
mm,
if Eden's life is as valuable as mine,
mm,
then you have a plan for her. And so I want to get her ready for whatever that plan is and
mm.
whatever I can do to have her ready. If that means keep her alive today, Lord, that's what it means. Okay. Okay.
Number one priority.
Yes, keep her alive today. And I don't take that lightly as a mom with special
Right,
needs.
right.
You don't take that lightly.
So,
I have to, my job is to work hard to keep her alive today because
mhm,
you have something so valuable for her life. And what an honor it is
mm,
that you would give her to me for
mm.
that big monumental task.
Gosh, I think that that is a beautiful space to reside, and it sounds like that like you're there. And so for those though who are so maybe they're pregnant and they have the potential diagnosis of something and they're
Hmm.
just in the angst of
Hmm.
wondering what their life will look like, or they have their sweet gift from God, but it's different. They're different than what they thought, and so how would you encourage her? What would you say to her who's not quite there yet to be
Hmm.
able to say, it's a joy?
First of all, I say to everybody, you have the right to feel your feelings,
Mm,
right? So embrace. You're afraid. There's a reason why you're afraid. Feel it, own it.
mm,
You're frustrated with God for him putting this in your lap. He can handle that. You know what I mean? You
mm,
are tired because of what it takes to raise this child. Exactly right. Feel those feelings, acknowledge them, and own them, but don't live in them. Our
mm,
feelings are supposed to alert us. Our feelings are supposed to inform us, but they're not supposed to direct us, and they're not supposed to guide us.
mm,
And so the frustration and the disappointment and sometimes even the sadness and then even the shame of I feel ashamed that
mm.
I'm mad or I'm ashamed that I'm disappointed. All of those things are real things that the Lord can handle. And I say just don't allow yourself to stay there. Feel them, acknowledge them, but then give them back to the Lord.
Mm. I love that. I think that is such a beautiful prescription that he gives us all throughout scripture, and that applies to every situation, is to
Mhm.
feel our feelings but not stay there.
Mhm.
Well, as we close up, I was thinking about your family in total,
Mhm.
and every person that's in all of our families impacts the other people. And so I'm
Yes.
so curious of how you have seen Eden, because she has two older siblings and then one younger,
Yes.
how you have seen her presence in your family impact your other children.
One, my youngest daughter, her passion is all centered around people who are marginalized and disabled.
Mm,
And so to watch God build that in her because of her sister is so beautiful. So that's part of why she's even going to Korea. It's so beautiful. Um, Another thing is, my children have really become sensitive to the way people treat other people
mm,
because of they've seen treatment of their sister. And so they're very protective of the people in their community no matter what. We don't talk to people like that. We don't call people those names. We don't behave like that. So that's another thing. And then the third thing, Eden, she doesn't get kind of sarcasm and inside jokes and read body language. So she just says the things, right? She just says it. And our family has learned how to not let people's words crush them because Eden will say things and you're like, now a different situation, my feelings would be very hurt.
she's made them tough.
Yes, but in all of the right ways, in the ways that led you to analyze the heart behind certain words and not just be crushed by people's words. So it's been sweet.
I'm telling you, the hard things that God gives us as we lean into Him, abide with Him, talk with Him, pour out our hearts to Him, He brings such beautiful things.
Yes,
And the journey that He's had each one of your kids on were not forsaken when this
right.
unexpected thing happened in your family, but it's the
Yes.
very venue in which He has directed their paths.
Yeah. And Eden has a purpose for her life, whether she's a single woman for the rest of her life or someone God brings her somebody. I have just been reminded that her entire life is purposeful no matter what it is. There's no broken that God can't overcome. And so I'm just excited for launching her into the world in whatever way that means.
Yeah, whatever that looks like.
Hmm.
Well, Missy, we're so grateful that you shared this part of your story with us. And as I know, many who are listening have a huge spectrum. There's a huge spectrum of
Yes.
disabilities and invisible and visible, intellectual and physical. And we just pray, both me and Missy just pray that as we were sharing in this conversation, that the Lord has taken one of these truths and
Yes.
has hit, listener, your heart in a really sweet, tangible way so that you can rise up and continue to serve Him and your family.
Amen. That is my prayer. Mhm.
I'm so glad. Well, thank you so much for joining us,
Thank you
Missy.
for having me. This has been wonderful.
Thanks so much for listening to the Ministry Wives podcast, a production of the North American Mission Board. If this conversation was helpful to you, please share it with a ministry wife friend. Also, you can subscribe, rate, and review us on your favorite podcast platform to make this content easier for others to find. And you can find this podcast and other helpful resources at ministrywivespodcast.com. And I'll see you here next week.